Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Vibes Inside. I am Mariana and I'm here to do a full moon reading in the sign of Pisces, happening here tonight on the 30th of August 2023. So welcome. If you're new to my channel, prepare yourself for longer readings. I have pre-shuffled the cards. I try to do the readings less dense and shorter, but I seem to get them longer. Anyway, if you're returning to my channel, thank you so much for still being here. I speak about spiritual awakening, spiritual journeys, ups and downs, facing polarities, the change we go about inside, and what it sometimes demands of us to continue towards a path that is true in alignment with you. I'm a true believer of the idea that it's important to find what's right for you. So I can tell you something, but if it's not right for you, it's not the right thing to do, right? If it doesn't resonate, if you don't feel like you can align with that, it's not for you then, right? So again, of course, if you like what I do, please give it a thumbs up and everything so that my channel can grow or the algorithm can pick it up. Thank you. Okay, so I just made a Pisces reading, and this is the full moon in Pisces that I'm now doing a reading for as well. There's maybe a bit similar information coming through, but I'll go through this one and we'll see if there's something else that pops in my mind here for you. So, overall energy for you is the Two of Water here. This would be the Two of Cups card. Two of Cups is usually a card of love. Two cups, so it means that the two are sharing the cups. We can talk about a relationship here. We can talk about polarities like yin and yang, or masculine and feminine. I have the staff also here as a clarifier for the underlying energy, and the staff talks about masculine and feminine energy. That is, you would say, today it comes across a little bit like it's out of balance, or it's something about navigating between them. In the Pisces reading, I talked a lot about duality, this idea that there's a duality existence, and if you buy into it, if you sign that contract, if you trust it and believe it, that is going to be your life then. But there is another choice, right? There is another way of living, but it includes maybe what I would say spirituality, religion, maybe alternative living like paganism, shamanism, things that include a higher wisdom or earth wisdom, or that the entire thing about duality is not the only thing that is present. Maybe you work with both earth and sky, right? Or cosmos and earth, that you include those as well. Beside the yin and yang, you could say that there are other forces at play here that we can draw upon or ask for guidance, or seek our home, like the feeling of home and maybe safety and security can, for some people, be found with religion. and some find it, you could say, in the matrix and what's there. So when I have the Two of Cups here, well, the Two of Cups card, when I first, the card came out and I turned it around, the first thing that got into my mind is how they are kind of going in two directions here, the fish, right? Like they are going in two different directions, or almost like someone could be splitting up, that the yin and yang are not, in alignment, like they are out of alignment, the balance is not quite there. Like they could have different interests or different, of course they do, they are polarities, but in our society we have learned to be civilized and live with each other. We can take a moment to think about that, this idea of we put polarities, a yin and a yang, in front of each other. We're asking them to get married and live together from now on and forward. Oppositional energies. We know we get attracted to each other. That's the yin and yang, that the magnetism between the two polarities. But putting them in a little ball here of water together and asking them to now figure it out together, well, it requires that they can listen to each other, right? It requires that they understand each other's perspective, the worldview of each of them. So it means that both of them have to actually be able to. They have to have a willingness, first of all, and they also have to actually be able to. So like look more than their own nose, right? That they can look outside of themselves, or they can understand why something is important to one and why it may not have the same importance to the other. What is it the yin is trying to hold on to and embrace and grow, and what is it that the yang is trying to embrace and hold on to and grow? It seems a little bit like, I don't know why, but they actually come across as, derailed or drunk or something, like that something is influencing them not to be able to see each other. Clarifying this card is this one, the Ace of Gabriel. So this is an Ace of Wands card. The Ace of Wands is typically, like a new inspiration, new ideas, a new passion, a new opportunity, or inspiration or motivation for something. The chance to do something amazing, a sense of wonder. That can be what the Ace of Gabriel talks about, that it's a new beginning of something with the Two of Cups here, that I feel like potentially can bring them further together, because they come across as if they are kind of like going in total different direction, or they don't see each other, that something needs to come in that kind of make them like maybe see each other again. So this can literally be, you make a decision with your wife that we need time together, right? We otherwise I'm afraid that we are splitting up. Otherwise I don't think we make it. We need time together to spark something up again, perhaps, or to find the rhythm of us again. We need to do that. So this could be like a new hobby together, something that makes us, instead of go into different directions, something that you could say creates the middle ground for us, the base in the middle. So especially for the like people who are very opposite. In a civilized world, people get married all the time. We live together as couples, we get children and so on, but it doesn't mean that we actually get along well, does it? It doesn't mean that we actually are good together. Maybe in the beginning when everything is peachy and like we are in love, but this seems a little bit like, well, the base is there, Earth is there, there are things to do here, but we could get off track with each other because somehow we believe that because we find this love, the one we marry or the one we fall in love with, that now we have common ground. We don't necessarily have common ground at all. We are still polarities. The clarifying card for the Two of Water here is this Temptation card. So the Temptation card can tell us why it is that we go in different directions, right? We can be tempted by something. We can be tempted by all kinds of stuff around us that makes us go in different directions, especially because we in ourselves are polarities, men and women, or female, male, masculine, feminine, yin and yang. So sometimes it's maybe easier to just go with a temptation than it actually is to nurse and take care of maybe a relationship here, a marriage. The balance between yin and yang can easily be disturbed because there's something here. And for this card here, I've never thought about this card like this before, but but today it actually came across as we are tempted into, I want to say she's sleeping, but it's not sleep like that. It's a mind hijack. The apple here, which there's a bite of, it actually came across as, you know, like the Apple logo. So I came to think that this big apple here, well, the big apple, we know New York can be that, but right? But it could also be, somehow it came across as, you know, like the Apple logo, and then there's this bite taken off it. So it got me to think about, you know, Apple products like iPhones, iPad, all this stuff that can take our time, that we look at it, right? We get tempted by what it's offering. Like what is it offering us? Like these technical, you could say technical instruments here. What are they offering us if we look on Instagram, YouTube, whatever? And when we do that, we are actually just keeping ourselves occupied by something. We're not even, and in this kind of, today it comes across as spending. Like the idea of spending something online perhaps, or that we can fall asleep, we can lose ourselves in the temptation of what you would say our screens are offering us. And the reason why we choose maybe to sit with an iPad or, sit with our phone or something, and we look at something that is something we like, right? We look at it because me as a woman, I may prefer certain videos because I'm a woman, and men may prefer other videos because they are men, and our interests may, well, there could be like similar things, of course, but there could also be like really separate interests that we look at because actually the one we are with, we don't find the common ground with. Does that make sense? Like the one you are actually with, you're not finding common ground with them. Like not something that bring you together. Like, well, sex can bring the oppositions together, but things like intimacy, trust, feeling that you are really there for each other, that the other one is the one that you would trust and go to and rely on, right? Here I see them like they are kind of going in different directions, like it could be anything. It could also be that you have very different jobs. So one is a child caretaker, and the other is a finance CEO, right? So you are in two different worlds, and to find a common ground with, again, opposition is, how do you do that? I talked about it also in the Pisces reading, like that duality is present around us, but if you want to, so these two oppositions are there. It doesn't have to be that I talk about a love relationship, but because it's the Two of Water coming up, I will say it could be. And that there is always temptation around us to take us away from each other. Does that make sense? In this case, this temptation card is clarified with the staff, as I just quickly showed you before. And he looks like a giraffe, but actually it's not. It's when I take, and now he falls down here. There's something very interesting coming through with this staff here. When I put this closer, you may see that it's actually a skeleton put on a stick here. This is usually also something you can see when you enter a house of a shaman, for instance, like a skull like this, or a cranium. Today it came across as because this one, he died, like this one doesn't live anymore. It's a cranium, right? So the animal doesn't live anymore. But somehow when I look at the card, it's like the eyes looks right at me, right? The eyes, they look right at me, like it's still alive. It's this, today it came across as, like an old influence, like a, I hear warning, but that's not the right word. It's like an omen, like an old omen that I'm watching you, even though I'm not alive anymore. Does that make sense? Like something from the past still has an influence, and that's the reason why you sit here. Like an old issue, an old situation is a real problem that makes us easily be tempted to use our time on something like this, perhaps. This is just like, this can represent gambling or shopping, or and this big apple here, it's quite big, like the way we spend our time on things that could be on a phone, on a computer, on the internet, on and how it may actually create a distance between us. But we don't know how to find the common ground between, like the yin and yang. Let me read to you from about the staff here. So the staff is the symbol of authority. It holds the power to temper extremes. And, well, do we think that masculine and feminines are extremes? Maybe we don't see it like that, but when we put them together in a room, they are extremes to each other. They are polar opposites. If we didn't have civilization, if we were not programmed by, like, to coexist with each other, I don't think we could. I really don't think we could. Because we are innately very, very different. The staff helps you to find the right course of action, the way of the middle. And here it is again. How do we find the way of the middle if we stand in extremes, or in between extremes? It aids you to maintain your balance after you begin walking in that direction, the way of the middle. Moses carried a serpent staff through the desert, and with it he could summon the power of nature to heal or call plague. The staff reminds you of the impermanence of all things, and that your authority must come from your deep longing to serve. And somehow I feel like, whoever this may, it's almost like we are called to wake up from our go-to, our go-to escape, perhaps, here. Does that make sense? The things we do when we feel lost somehow, when you know, like, if you have a quarrel with your wife and you slam the door and go outside, where do you go? What do you do? Like, when things become so heated, the extremes of the polarities, that you can't seem to, face life anymore. You slam the door, you walk away from something. What do you do then? Do you go to a friend and gossip about it? Do you go and gamble or drink or something? Do you what? This is like the go-to escape, I want to say. That's what I feel like. We can be tempted to escape what we can control. Or if we should control it, you have to use authority, right? You have to use power. And sometimes we know that if we do use power, it's not in a nice way. It's like the staff wants us to do something, like the authority, first of all, if you use authority, should come from a deep longing of wanting to serve. Not just to have control or power, but actually to help others, right? And it seems a little bit like we may have forgotten something about that, like we fall asleep in the arms of this instead. And we can escape we can escape what it means actually to love, right? That the or to serve each other, like that the masculine and feminine, we can reproduce if we don't get together, right? We could possibly live like, like divided from each other, but we can't recreate without interaction. So it's like the authority, like authority. If I've talked about this on my channel before, that we live in a very masculine dominated time. It has been for a long time, but masculine dominance doesn't mean that you are in divine masculine power. Like the way society is ruled, the way society is, and how men and women, or masculine and feminine powers are understood with each other, doesn't mean that it's good or balanced, or that authority comes from a longing to serve the other. Like that here, if these two could see each other for how beautiful each of them actually are, if they are in their authentic power, they would want to serve each other. They would want to help and serve and care for each other. But it seems like there could be an old issue that is still staring us right in the eyes here, that is keeping some kind of authority or control thing going. And because of that, we tend not to look at each other. We tend not to find common ground. We tend not to want to serve each other. We have this in mind. We have the goal to escape in mind. It's this place where when you are right before you explode, you have this discussion with your wife or husband, and they just don't seem to get you, right? And you get more agitated and more annoyed and more critical perhaps, and you start arguing, you start yelling, and then there's this like just before you explode, where you may decide, never mind, I have to leave, right? And you walk out the door, slam the door, and then you stand out there in the rain and you're wondering, what the heck am I going to do, right? I do this, I go shopping, I go to a friend, I gossip, I look online for a I don't know, sex or something. I do something, because right now I'm just so fed up with like this, right? I'm so fed up that we are so different and we can't seem eye to eye. We can't seem to find that common ground. And it seems like there's something old here staring in your eyes here, right? So there is this, when that argument becomes so heated, or someone takes extreme control, like really, or becomes physical or violent or something, then it gets out of hand. The idea of actually be there to serve each other, help each other, to support each other, now it's all out, right? Now it's away, now it's gone. We are actually standing right there where our extremes become extremes. Like our polar opposite, maybe opinions of each other becomes extreme, right? They get heightened, they get amplified, because we are each other's opposite. because we are each other's opposite, it's not necessarily easy to have common ground. Even though you had a civilized upbringing, we were taught how to live together. And there were certain expectations of the females and certain expectations of the men. It doesn't mean that it's peachy and it works all the time. It doesn't. And here with this, and it says in the beginning, it's a symbol of authority. But authority in the sense that it wants to remind us that when we got together, we probably wanted to like help and be there for each other, but that could be gone, right? Like I'm looking at like an old omen of something. You know, like this is the idea that the omen here, or maybe it's a promise, right? That we promised to serve and honor each other when we were married, right? We promised each other to as I said, it's like the yin and yang cannot do without each other. Like it's a basic thing in physics, physics, that there are polarities and they are somehow drawn to each other, right? But it's like this. It could be like this is this old promise that we made to each other, right? And it's looking us like it's staring us right in the eyes here. Every time we have a quarrel or something, and we are wondering if we are walking away from each other, maybe, you know, like divorcing or we seek other temptation, right? We seek other ways of escaping from each other, from actually facing what it is that is the real problem. The real problem is that we have promised each other. We have promised each other a long time ago, and this is looking right at us, right? But maybe it's all dead. Maybe it's a long time ago we made that promise. Maybe we can't keep it up. That's why I see them like they are going in different directions here. It feels like that an old promise here, that we have promised each other to be together. We have promised each other to endure, persevere, go through everything together till death do us part. Right? But that promise is actually now a problem, because does it make sense what I'm saying? Like we seem to go in different directions. And because we seem to do that, the promise here that once was made is obsolete. Or maybe not obsolete, but we need to have a review of this. Like we have to look at this again. Is it possible? Is it possible for us still to live together harmoniously? Or are we too extreme for each other here? Are our ways too extreme? You know, like, or is there honesty in marriages? Like, are we actually honest with each other? I believe that because you are putting two oppositions together, and just because you say I do at the altar, now it's supposed to work out, the happy ever after. But that's a fairy tale. It's not like that, right? It usually people have, like, this happens from time to time, right? That people, they don't really get along. Then you have couple counseling and you have all kinds of stuff, but this is all over the place, right? This is where we find the escape. We find the escape when things are not working out. We have go-to things we do then. But sometimes they are shady. We hide them because we've made the promise, right? We've made the promise to love and honor and to have and hold and so on, till death do you part. But maybe it's time for a new beginning of something, right? What is supposed to come in here to help something like this to find the new spark, or to find the will again, the will to see each other, the will to stand in the middle, as the card says, right? The staff card says that it helps you find the right course of action, the way of the middle, and aids you to maintain your balance after you begin walking in that direction. So it's like there's something about choosing, I feel like, also choosing like a middle ground of something. That if you are in if I'm talking to people, it comes up as a relationship today, like and it is the sign of Pisces, and Pisces is, you know, like the elders, the elderly. It has to do with leaving life, you could say, leaving life. And then Aries is like the rebirth, the birth again, right? That you come into life with Aries and you leave life with Pisces. Maybe that's why I have this feeling here that something is divorcing, or something is coming to a realization that the only reason why we live under the same roof is because we made this promise here. We made this promise to each other. But it's an old promise. I even talk about, I could see this even like, this whole idea, yeah, it actually came up early also, this idea of putting men and women together is, how exactly is that supposed to work out? When I think about it, actually makes no sense. I get it. Many people live in marriages and feel like it's all right. This is what they want. This is what they seek. This is what they like. But I also know about divorce rates. I know about single mothers and fathers, but single mothers, right? It's like, and this goes hand in hand with my normal way of reading, that I don't really sugarcoat something. Like if this is the message I get, it's what I'm saying, right? That it could be the feeling that this full moons wants to wrap up something, a cycle of something that has been going on, or maybe you have, like you have been aware of this for a longer period of time, but now it actually comes to, you say, I'm done. I'm done living a life where we are pretending that we do well together, because we don't, right? We don't really do well together. Not really. One has to give. And that's why I feel like this authority thing is like, authority can turn into control and dominance. But that's not the same as like equal give and take. It's not the same as respect. It's not divine authority. It's not, it's like, this could even be the idea that we talk about, that the cranium represents the institution of marriage. Like this idea that if we put men and women together, we secure bloodlines, inheritance, new children. We secure that there is a sense of maybe control, because men are then in charge. Men were given rights, women were not given rights. Women were a property, were regarded as the man's property, and he could do with her and what he wanted. The children equally kind of his property. So you could say, maybe there is something about, you could say, I feel like, I don't know, it feels a little bit like there is a questioning with this idea of authority in maybe relationships. Like, that the full moon kind of wants to wrap up a big cycle of something about this, the promise, this whole idea of a marriage contract. And because you have a paper and you have a ring doesn't make it easy to live together anyway, does it? Like, it doesn't count for much. It's just words. And when it actually comes down to it, it's not that easy. That's what I feel like. I feel actually, and the base card, the card that came out, and the bottom is the solar plexus here. The solar plexus is our personal power. It's about our willpower, confidence, but also you could say what happens to this chakra if this is not working. What happens to the solar plexus if you are trying to honor like an old institution, or because it comes across as like skeleton, something long forgotten and buried. It's so long ago, but it's still staring us right in the eyes here. Still, it could be, like, as I just mentioned, like the old authority of men. Like, who made that decision anyway? And it's like this idea of maybe divorcing, walking away, like finding the fire here. And this is fire energy, finding the fire to do something new, to seek maybe a new life, a new, that the solar plexus here is being challenged. So for women who wants to break out of a relationship here, their solar plexus would be challenged to do so, to break out of it, to have the guts to do it. The men, the same. But it's equally the other way around. How, if I choose that I want to stay, if I choose that I want to do the right thing, if I choose to actually embrace the divine authority here, and I want to get back to me serving, and that we serve each other, that we are actually uniting instead of running away from each other. How do I do that then? That is also a challenge right now, that it's like Pisces again, the elderly, but also wise. What is the wisest decision to make? Is it to leave, or is it to stay and choose each other every day, even though it's difficult? Like, what's the right way of being? How can we... It's not like one is more in control than the other. Like, it should be a middle ground. It should be that there is equal amount of respect for each other, equal amount of respect for the things that each of the polarities stand for. Does it make sense? Like, I'm trying, I don't know. Let me just read a little more about the staff here. You know how to flow easily between polarities, how to weigh all possibilities and instinctively select the right path. This is the invitation. This is what you can learn at this moment in time. Right? That there is maybe an old omen or a promise or an old institution, maybe of marriage, or the idea that we love each other just because we stand in front of each other. And we want to help each other, serve each other. This whole idea of serving each other, I also really believe that is old-fashioned. Like, that's an old way of understanding marriage. I'm not sure many see marriage like that anymore. And divorce, like the idea that you can divorce is the way out, right? Once you couldn't. When you were married, you were married. You couldn't just, well, if your wife or husband died, that was the way out, if you wanted out, right? And I know people, they marry every day, and it's great. It's just, because you have a piece of paper and a ring doesn't mean that you know the right thing to do, that you know how to serve each other. Serving each other means that you trust each other, that there's honesty and devotion, loyalty. And sometimes there is in the beginning, until there's not. And that's why I feel like the temptation card is here, right? There are so many things that can tempt us outside an agreement. Two of Cups, this we can talk about a friendship. We can talk about mother and child, father and child. We can talk about romantic relationships, of course, marriages, as I said. We can talk about maybe, usually not with water, but it could be, like really good friends that have a business together, where both business and friendship will actually be hurt if you can't seem to find common ground. Trust your inner wisdom and take the first step on a journey that your heart has already embarked on. Use the power of the staff to unite what appears to be divided. To find that delicate balance between will and surrender. Yeah, because I feel like this idea of serving each other actually also takes as a kind of surrender. That you have to, as a married couple, for instance, here, I really feel enter into a marriage with the idea of control is that I believe that is a recipe for disaster. Like it's not going to work out. And maybe that's why this authority thing, like you can't surrender to love. This is a water card, love. So this is not just living under the same roof. These are two people or two energies that love each other. What does it take to love? Not just to live together and coexist, no, to love each other here. That's what I feel like it's questioned here. Something old, something that is created way back. The dynamic of the yin and yang here. Like the extremes that meet up. Extremes that meet up. Like, how are they supposed to coexist with each other? I don't know. It's just, it is the balance between what you want and what you can surrender to. Or what you is required to surrender to. At least if we talk about love. Not if we talk about a business agreement or contract. As I said, you can sign a contract, but it doesn't mean that you love. You could be in love. It could be an arranged marriage. It doesn't have to, it doesn't fulfill, like the ring and the contract doesn't fulfill love. Love takes a choice, and you can have one person that really loves the other, and they will do anything they can to keep a marriage going. And then you can have the other one who doesn't really care. For something to work out and actually be Two of Cups, it's a mutual understanding. It's a mutual choice. It's a mutual devotion and surrender to each other's energy. But I don't know how many who can actually do that. I've talked a lot about like this Virgo hit, like that I made that video a week ago or so about the Virgo had a massive hit, and that there was a division that we could talk about, that the first zodiacs kind of represents something, a life before something happens, and then a life after something happens. So in this case, if we talk about a romantic relationships, let's say there has been infidelity here. There's been, someone was cheating. So there is a life up till that. And then there is a life after where, yeah, we made each other a promise, but the promise was maybe broken. So how much is that promise actually worth? And can we fix it? Can this be fixed because there has been a breach in like loyalties, and one could be very hurt by this. The one who was cheated on could be very hurt by that someone else chose just to go out and have a quick fix of something here. A release or a quick fix because they didn't know how to bring this together. Right, so because of that infidelity, this is now standing and looking you directly in the eyes again. But you promised me, right? You promised me. Yeah, but we can't seem to figure this out, right? So it takes a choice here. Your willpower. This is fire energy, and it also relates to the solar plexus here. Like it needs, for this to be fixed, it needs an igniting of passion again, and a choice. You have to make you use your will to want to make this right, to want to make it work, to let it have a new beginning. You learn from your lesson, the wisdom, right? You learn from your lesson. You devote yourself also with the ace here. That devotion to love, you could say. That could be what the full moon is also about here, that maybe there has been a cycle where a big one, because I feel this is old, like, I wouldn't say ancient, but old. Like, it's like, it represents something that is dead already. Like, it's way gone. It lived like this. It lived in a different time, right? It lived in a time where things were different, and now it kind of, well, it's still here. It looks us right in the eyes here. I even want to say, could it be some kind of karma? Like, you know, like generation. I talked about was that in Aquarius, or something about generational curses or something, that that there can be what was that? It was some. I think there was an aspect. There is an aspect about Sun and Saturn that also relates to paternal karma. And it's almost like, to me, it comes across like something like that, like an omen from the past, something that has been stirring. And now it comes across as, because the temptation card here, almost like, you know, like something that has, can you inherit infidelity? Or at least escaping, running from something. The idea that this is something that has been, you know, like all the males in our family or all the women in our family, they always do this when things get tough. You know, things like that. Something like that, that when things get tough and we don't seem eye to eye here, we run and we do something. We gamble, we spend all the money. Or we run and do something here. We use our time on something that can take our mind off the problem. I said it could relate to like you know, like screens and so on, but screens have not been around always. So it could be anything, you know, like anything that could, you could say, bite the forbidden fruit, kind of. So this can be, it could be like infidelity, it could be, but it could be anything where you are, you could say, running away from your love when things get tough, right? So as I said, the go to escape, it's almost like a default, like it pops up if things get tough here. It pops up like a reflex to just do something, and maybe it's not really that well thought through, right? It can have big consequences, but it's almost like, and when I look at it, it's like it looks us right in the eye, like, yeah, you are a rolling stone like your dad and grandfather, you know, something like, it's almost like an inherited way of like it's almost in your blood. Like you had, I don't know, but like an inherited way of behaving when things get tough somehow here, right? When love is not working out, we take an escape route to something that, this could be an addiction, right? It could be anything. Start drinking, sleeping around, spending all your money, shopping. It could be anything. It could be but it looks you right in the eye, like, it's almost like you look yourself in the mirror and you're seeing your grandfather, and you just know he was a major gambler and an alcoholic. It's that kind of thing. Like, it's almost like you see a repetition of something, that it looks you right in, like it looks back at you, right? And to change that, to choose the right thing, because I feel like what I've just said here, I must read the medicine part also here. You are caught in the delicate balance between opposing forces, between masculine and feminine, between action and non-action. Use this to your advantage, as there can be no day without night, no low without high, no wrong without right. This is the time to take corrective action, beginning with your beliefs about what needs to be fixed and repaired. Let destiny take its course, nudging it slightly along. So tapping into the yin and yang, into duality, when you know that is your life, that you are one of them, and you can run from obligations or love also, but if you should do the right thing, you are kind of caught in the middle, or you experience that you're standing in the middle of something. Maybe you are watching others, like the child that stands in the middle of the quarrel from the mother and father, or you are witnessing a family issue that is going on, where you are kind of standing in the middle, or you are remembering something. You find yourself, or you would like to stand in the middle instead of being an opposition. You would like to actually just be in the middle and hope that the other one comes to you there as well, so that you can meet there, right? That you can meet up in that middle. If you can somehow stand, there's this, how to flow easily between polarities. You are caught in the delicate balance between opposite forces. So the medicine card tells the story about, you feel that you are caught in the middle. You don't know exactly what to do. No matter what you say, it's going to be it will be a win. Like no matter what you do, you feel like you're caught between two extremes. The invitation says that you flow easily there. So it's also depends on what I've talked about in the other readings this time around. I've talked about the new story. What are you choosing? Do you believe that you can flow easily in between extremes? Or, oppositional forces? Do you feel like you can handle that with ease? Or do you feel like, shit, I'm caught now. I'm benched. I'm crucified, what kind of understanding do you have about authority? When someone may want to use oppression or authority on you, how do you react to it? And again, if we talk about in love situations, do you run away from it if someone is, like being angry with you, or sad, or they are disappointed or frustrated or something? How do you react to it? Do you believe you can solve it easily and without too much distress, or do you believe that you are caught, cheating, or you are standing in front of a judge, that having a conversation with your wife or husband feels like you are in a courtroom where you are judged by your partner? And if that's the case, how do you deal with that judgment? Do you flow with it, like, okay, or like can you somehow maintain yourself? Or do you feel like you have to escape and run away here? Whatever you do, like whether you sit and you watch television all day, or you spend a lot of money, or you look on YouTube all day, it's a way of escaping something. It's a way of not facing what this is. What this is. Like, what does it represent? Like, when you run away here, it could be, sometimes, if I take men, sometimes some men choose to walk out the door, slam the door, and go for some hours, and then they come back. Because they would rather do that than do what their father and grandfather did, which was slamming and being violent and kicking and like being abusive. So when you tend to go, like, choose your go-to escape, there's a reason for you doing exactly that. So if you walk out the door and you slam it, and you walk some hours, and the other one feels that you're just leaving, that you can never have that conversation. It seems like every time this subject is around, we can't seem eye to eye. You avoid it, you avoid me, and so on, blah, blah, blah. You walk out the door because you can feel that your temper, that your fire gets up here. You can feel that the fire comes. And the fire, because of what you have experienced, what your grandfather, your father has experienced, it's a generational thing that you want to avoid that. So to avoid it, you are choosing to walk away, right? You're choosing not to do the same as your father did, perhaps, so you walk away. It doesn't mean that this helps. Like, the walking away temporarily takes, maybe you could say, the fire gets a bit, you have a possibility when you walk your 2 hours in the rain to get your fire settled again. But when you come back, the conversation is still there. Like, the conversation that you should have with this other person is probably still there. Maybe they have a way of triggering you, like they have a way of saying something or doing something, and because they do that, it gets your temper up, right? It gets you get angry or reactive. So you can use this time around to kind of, like it's a fulfillment of something. Maybe we simply have to go different ways. Like, maybe we have to split up and go different ways. That could be one way. And we could talk about, like actually building up the momentum to do that, to say it. Or we could talk about that this is where you choose to fight for your marriage, right? You choose to fight for the one that you gave your promise to. And so it talks about serving. How do I serve my love best? Maybe you serve your love best by walking away. If you keep hurting each other, would it be better then to be friends or decide to be friends and live apart? Because then you can actually serve each other. But if you are put together in the same apartment, you explode, like if extremes are put in front of each other, we just somehow expect that we can live together, but sometimes it's really not working, is it? If let's say two people with almost the same amount of temperament are put in the same room and they start arguing, it can become extremely heated, right? And both of them can actually explode in like really aggressive arguments. Or one has to give. And if one has to give, is it because of some kind of authority or power or control dynamic? Is it because you just want peace again? But then maybe because you let go or because you stop the argument, you are actually just yielding, you could say. You're just choosing that the peace is more important. So therefore I do it. So one has to give. I believe in all marriages, one has to give. Sometimes it's always the same who gives and the other one is in charge, you could say. And sometimes it's more balanced, that sometimes one has a point and the other one gives. And then sometimes it's the other way around. So the authority thing here, maybe there is this, like an old thing that has to do with men have authority. Right? Men have authority, so my woman should listen to me and follow me. Well, I'm not going to argue her case, but I'm just saying that women have to feel safe. Like, that's just how it is, especially if they are children. They have to feel safe. Not that they are safe. You can put them in a box and lock them up, and nobody would find the box. They are safe in there. But it doesn't mean that it feels good. Women have to feel safe. Then they let their guard down. If they don't feel safe, they have their guard up. They stay in masculine energy. If the man cannot provide the feeling of real safety for her, she keeps her masculine energy up. That's just how it is. And it seems to me a little bit here like, you know, like if a man is cheating on a woman and she has stayed home to take care of the children, and he got angry and got out here and got tempted by something, how should that ever make her feel safe again then with him? She will keep her guard up, right? This is where I feel like this whole idea of marriage is well, I know it works for many people, and that's great. But the reason why it may have been working is because one is giving. And one may have secrets. One may not be honest. Of course, it depends on the temperament of the people involved. But if there is a lot of fire present here, I believe this can be quite aggressive, quite heated. Maybe also like passionate here, right? Very, very passionate, could be. It just seems like there's a feeling to this full moon of being wise about the choice you make if you feel that you are put in front of like a possible ending of something. What do you choose? Do we even understand the idea of serving each other in romantic relationships? Do we even understand what that means? Like, it's not just the women serving the man or the man serving the woman. It's both ways. And as I said, if the woman doesn't feel like she is taken care of by her man, she will stay in masculine energy. She will keep her guard up. And if the man can't, like, if she has her guard up and she won't let him in, you could say, if she can't relax around him and trust him, then he may feel rejected, right? And then we have this. So somehow I feel like this, it represents this. And now I get back to this Virgo again, like there's a time before something happens, and then there is a time after, and it's like, if I feel like what I'm reading for here is like a couple here, or the yin and yang energy generally on earth has had this feeling of like an event, and that event changed everything. It's like, you know, like when there's a cheating going on, after that, the couple may still be married, but one is extremely hurt by this, and the other may regret but not really know what to do. It again, it's something that can be undone, right? If it's figured out, if there's evidence, it's out in the open. Everyone knows, and it cannot be undone like that. So here again, I have the sound like, do you believe in love after love? Do you believe in a love after a hit, because we had one before the hit, and then now we are in this. I feel like there's something like this here still going on, like we're dealing with energies that are confronting each other. Or again, like this limbo of, should I say this? Shouldn't I say this? What's the right thing to do? How can I, if this comes out in the open, can we maintain? Is it possible to maintain? What do I want, right? What's your willpower about this? Do you choose to stay? Do you choose to leave? Do you choose to say something? Like be honest about maybe the feeling that you are living under the same roof perhaps, but you are not really talking. You don't really have anything in common maybe anymore. You don't seem to maybe like each other much actually. The flame is gone, you know. Maybe you want to ignite it. You want it back. But this takes commitment and willpower and like, I don't know, maybe also confidence. Like both of you need to reassure each other that you are actually there for each other. Again, this idea of serving each other, right? It's maybe a bit of a strange term, serving, but I feel like that's actually the right term. Serving in love means that you have devotion. Your loyalty is there. Your respect is there. Your acceptance also. The acceptance of opposition. That your partner is not like you. They may not have the same views, but that's all right. Right? That there's something that keeps us together. That this thing that keeps us together should be unbreakable. Right? Maybe someone has figured out that the only thing that keeps us together is sex, passion. This is the thing that where we can find common ground, right? But otherwise, it seems like we drift apart here. That's what I feel like. Like the staff is, it's like it's. There could be something about someone has intuition about someone is cheating. It's the idea of the atlas here, or that could be, and like a maybe, you know, like an old feeling that was once with your partner, that they were cheating, but then it kind of blew off and it never really got to anymore. It could be like a feeling again, you know, like something old, it could be an old flame, perhaps, like an old flame, someone long forgotten, that suddenly you think about them, right? That they could be that temptation. I get now even past life, like meeting someone, and then you just have this flashback of something. The flare up of maybe that's what the Two of Water is, that it's almost like they pass each other on the street, right? And then it's almost like someone remembers something here, like a flare up of temptation here. Old here, like an old recognition of, and then something about taking action on it, like, should I do this, shouldn't I do it? I still have something about couples and marriage, and it could be all linked together, you know, someone being married, walking on the street, passing by someone, and there's this instant recognition of something from somewhere way back, like maybe from your youth, you know, this was the first boyfriend you ever had, and you recognize them instantly, and there's this spark coming, right? But you are married, right? And that, so there's this thing going on, what to do about this, right? This feeling. That it's like another scenario, but it often comes for me that I get different stories or something like that. That's also sometimes why my readings are so long, because I get more than one message. I can get 10 different messages in. But there's a strong feeling of couple, marriage, couple, something engaged, something like that. And then something that potentially can come in here and lure something. There could be like an old feeling to it, or an old omen, an old promise. The feeling you have been, you know, if this is someone you pass by and you just instantly has this epiphany, this feeling of flare up of something. It could be the feeling that you have been married to them, maybe in another life, you know, this is someone who, they are important, like the Two of Cups here. It's important, they are important, like a soulmate, a soul. It's the same thing with a marriage. It's an important person. But sometimes we marry someone and we figure out this is more like a karmic situation. That's the reason why we can't seem to get along normally. The only thing that binds us together is the sex. It was the sex in the first place. This was how we met, maybe, right? It could be that like the spark is not the same. It was, but it's not there anymore. And we are together because of this old promise, right? That's the reason why we... Can I get... Is there a bit of a twin flame thing here? Maybe a little bit. Again, old eons. Here, twin flame, masculine. I've had so much masculine and yin and yang energy going on. I'm almost tired of reading about it, right? It's almost always there. The balancing, there is something about an imbalance that needs to be restored. That the feminine energy needs to rise up and take her place, you could say, with the masculine. But it also means that the masculine may need to step a bit down. So again, the willpower here, would you do that if you were the masculine? Would you allow her to rise up and stand next to you here, equally? How do you use your, again, this willpower, this idea of controlling another, or, well, I believe that some people, they live in relationships where you could say the man is in charge. and the woman is more of a follower, and it works all right for them. Okay. But in those relationships where it's not working out, those relationships could be challenged by this feeling of going in different directions. We don't seem to be like see things eye to eye. We always get in an argument. I feel the temptation to just leave and do something else. But there is something here that is holding me back, or that the temptation here is an omen of something, right? That the temptation to want to leave, to have these default escape routines. That I go shopping, I go gambling, I go drink, I go buy drugs, I go have an affair, I do something. That is always an omen of something. Right? It's an omen. It's a head warning, right? It's a warning of something. It's a warning that something is wrong, right? That something is not as it should be. And the more we get into temptation, the more distance we create, right? So it's like an ongoing loop of just more and more disaster and more unhappiness. So maybe we should just stop it, right? Maybe we should stop it. And let's say, I don't know, instead of hurting each other, then let's stop, let's divorce, and let us figure out how to co-parent. Be good at that. Usually we have been good at that, right? So maybe we can be good co-parents. We can actually make that work well. So let's do that instead of hating each other, gossiping about each other, avoiding each other, rejecting each other, because it's just this loop that never gets to be better. Maybe it's better just to realize that maybe we can't seem to figure this out. Maybe counseling is not helping. But we could, if we actually get distance from each other, maybe we could actually co-parent, right? Maybe we could we could figure out to be friends, maybe. Or we would be much better friends than we are lovers. Do you see? Like, that's what I feel like. There is this, like, either we really choose to invest, find the middle ground with each other. So what am I using my willpower on at this time? Do I run away, escape, climb into the screen, climb into the YouTube channels and stay there, right? Watch the internet all day and all evening, or do I try to put it away? Do I put the screen down and I try to have a conversation with my partner here instead? Trying to figure out, how can we fix this? The distance that has come, how can we fix this somehow? What is missing? Why do you not look at me anymore? Why do we never go out? Why are you always occupied with work? Why are you always occupied with your screen? Right? Why are you like questioning each other this and trying to be open and figure out what is it that is missing? Because it seems like it seems like something, if nothing is done, it's like it's done. If nothing is done, it's done. Yeah. If nothing changes, it seems like things are done. Like they walk in different directions here. So it's maybe also like innately really figuring out who are you, right? Like as a man, I sit in front of my woman, but who are you? Like what is, I know your name, I know you, we've been married for 20 years, right? But who are you really? Because we sit here now and it seems like we can't see eye to eye. What is wrong? Why can this not work? And then really be open, right? And not become defensive and anything. Just if you really want to stay, like if you really want to work on it, you really want to find that middle ground, that common ground. If you really want that, it takes an effort. Maybe it even takes a sense of sacrifice or surrender, as I said. It takes that you can't stay in control all the time. Love doesn't work like that. Yeah. So, this is what I have for this full moon in Pisces. Sometimes releasing something, saying goodbye to it, is maybe better than actually clinging on to it because of some kind of promise or something here. That you can wear each other out on this. You know, it's not, you can even have great love for each other actually, but you can't, together, it's like, it seems like you can't make it work. Or if there is a possibility that you could make something work with someone here, it could be the feeling that you are, instead of running away from it, you're actually realizing there is something old here with someone. As I said, maybe this feeling you pass someone on the street and it's like, you may look them in the eyes, just like, again, just the look in the eyes is just this like instant recognition of something, right? And it hits like a flash, right? And you can't ignore it. That could also be what this is like. You have a great marriage with someone. Then you have this encounter, you walk by someone and they just had this impact on you. Or you had a quick conversation with someone and there's this flare up of something. A sense of wonder. This new thing that you can't explain, but it feels old and destined or like an omen or something. And it's tempting you to do something, like it's tempting you to speak to them, contact them or something. And it's like after this comes in, it's like your marriage, this idea of being with that person seems not right, maybe. I don't know. Well, maybe I could include twin flames here also with the massive yin and yang energy here, but I'm not necessarily a twin flame reader, but I will allow it for those who really feel like they are on a real twin flame journey with someone. It could be that you are giving it up, like the idea of twin flame, that you give it up, you let it rest, that you go separate ways and you let it rest. Again, handling twin flame energy is extremely difficult. Like, they are extremes, like really extremes. And they trick each other immensely. Like, it's undescribable energy. They trick each other immensely into healing, but if your ego goes against it, it's a struggle. And it's a very old energy, right? That is stirring up everything in each of the individuals. It could be the feeling that you just let it rest, you let it be, right? Again, you cannot control the other person. You cannot necessarily control yourself, I think, as twin flames. That could be an immense temptation, a big lure, a big attraction, but it does, as I said, it doesn't mean that because you come together that you will be happily ever after. Twin flame energy is not like that. Like that is polar opposite extremes, like. And both of them will trick each other, like, and therefore there's usually a lot of separation time with twin flames. Maybe that's also what we talk about here, that something needs to have a separation for some reason, because it has gotten too extreme, right? Yeah, this is what I feel like I have. I feel it ties into this whole idea of the fifth dimension, the rise of the feminine. But the rise of the feminine is also this realization that once feminine energy or women were seen as property. Like it's something about that the feminine actually is its own energy. It has its own will. It has its own desires. It's not something that the men rule. And I know this is quite normal, or becoming more and more normal today, but it's not that far ago. Like it's still in the, as again, it's still in the bloodline, that it's like it's still there to be looked at. It's still there to be embraced. Some of your mothers or grandmothers were, when they grew up and got married, they were treated like a property, or like a follower, an enabler, right? They were treated like that because they had no own will. Like they had no own, they were never raised to have one, really. Not really, not when it comes to it. Not like this is, it's not, we still have, if you look around the world, there are still regimes, or, like society constructs that give men the full power. The rise of the feminine is out of this place where they were nothing, where they were property. They were owned like a pig or a chair, right? It's and in that, in such position, you don't have a will. You may have one, but you're not speaking it. You're not saying anything, right? You're not saying anything because you have no right to speak. In the Western culture, we may not even like think about that. But there are still inherited ways that you have men roles and feminine roles, jobs and everything. It's still there. Salary difference and so on. There's still something there. So when the rise comes, it will be different for each woman, I think. It depends on what is in your bloodline, what has been a problem or a thing in your bloodline. And this full moon is just one thing. It brings something to the surface that is supposed to be maybe looked at, talked about, figured out. And again, where do you want to go with it? Like, what do you do with your solar plexus here? Do you realize you don't really have willpower to stand alone? Do you realize you don't want to be divorced, or you do want to split up? What are you doing? Like, this is the personal power center. This is where we feel where our personal power is. The confidence, the go-getter energy, the will to push through something. But it's also where you make choices, right? Or it's also where you make a choice, or you use your will to devote yourself to something. But it comes from a personal choice, right? Your personal beliefs and thoughts and beliefs and thoughts and opinions are put into action. So whether you leave something or you fight for it is I think it's again, it feels a little bit like a choice. What story do you want to be the headline of your next moves here? What story governs your moves? Or do you and do you want to change that? Do you want a different story to govern your moves? And if you want a different story, you have to make a choice. And maybe it means that you have to release something here. It could be like an old, an old programming from generations back, that this is how women conduct themselves. This is how a real mother is, or this is how a real wife is. This is how a real man is. This is how a real man is. Old programming that we may need to look at. Maybe we can't really use them anymore. I won't say necessarily with this one that it's obsolete, but we may need to at least ask ourselves if we are still agreeing with it. If you are agreeing with that in yourself, with the life you live, the partnership you're in, or so on. Do you agree with that? Whatever this is, it feels old, but it still stares you right in your face. It feels like an old promise of something. And maybe it's this idea of serving, right? that originally maybe yin and yang energy was there to serve each other, to actually be, you could say, one with each other. But again, something happened, and yeah, and can we still do that? Like, can we still serve each other? Can we still surrender to each other's love? Do we still trust each other's love? Do we still trust each other? Do we trust each other's willpower here? What you do with your willpower, like, can we trust that the willpower is not necessarily taking you here? Can you control your willpower? So if you actually say you have devoted yourself, that you want to honor something, that you want to serve and honor and be there and be invested and loyal and having respect and acceptance, you can say it, but are you actually doing it? Are you actually doing it? Or, so what does a promise mean if we can't live up to it? If are we wearing masks and keeping shadows? Like, and is it worth it then? That's also what I feel like here. Maybe it's just time to speak, and maybe it means that we break up from each other, but is that a better life? If we know we have at least been honest and we have dealt with it, right? Instead of keeping a lot of secrets and dishonoring each other, dishonoring yourself by lying. I feel like there are questions like this here. With what the cards that I have, the feeling that I have also. It's actually the other readings I've had this round of reading has not been that like day to day down on earthy matters. This feels very actually practical, everyday life, marriage life, the way we see each other or run around each other, like one is going in one direction to work or getting the kids or doing laundry, or the other is going to a football match, going to work, helping a friend repair a car. It's this way of how our lives we cross each other, but it's almost just to say hi and then we are off again. That our lives are busy, right? We can easily somehow get away from each other because we are innately differently made. We have innately different preferences, and we are innately differently, maybe sexually wired. We are innately differently either, like giving or fixed, you could say, like, or mutable or fixed. We are innately different. And the things we go to during life or during day is different. We go towards the things we think are most important, or what we have agreed on in the partnership, right? So if you are the mother, you may take care of the children. You may do home chores because that's kind of the agreement, right? And the man may go out, he's the provider, he gets the money, he fixes the car, he takes care of the garden or something like that, right? But that's kind of maybe but in that process we can easily, like we meet each other in the kitchen. Hi. And then we kind of walk different ways. And that creates also a distance. And we're not necessarily helping each other. Like maybe the woman can help in the garden and the man can take care of the kids. Right? It doesn't have to be that separate. But sometimes I think our lives get like that, unless we choose that it should not be like that. And both of them needs to do that. It's not enough that only one does. Yeah, this is what I have. I hope this helps somehow, or maybe clarified feelings you have or something at this point in time. Yeah, I send you my very best out there. Especially if you are in a process where you feel like there's a split up of something. Because that can be difficult. So I send you my very best. Take care of yourself. Love and light to you. Bye-bye.